retired Detective Pat Marry sat down with the Lions of Liberty podcast to once again, on the promotion trail, promoting his latest book, which was co-authored by a member of the mainstream journalist Robin Schiller, working hand in hand with Garda Adrian. The book was initially entitled Mother at Lordship, but the Justice for Aaron Brady campaign have rebranded this book for exactly what it is and exactly what it represents: how to make money from your murdered friend and colleague. Now, obviously, we have been looking into this book and the absolute lies and the cover-up that this book highlights and represents. We have also scrutinised some of the podcasts and radio programmes that Marry and Schiller have been on the road, as I say, promoting this repugnant and repulsive piece of literature. And we will continue to do so. We will continue to highlight the lies and the absolute disgusting and repugnant and monstrous claims made by Marry on his trails around Ireland and further afield. So we're going to continue now. Just have a quick look at some of what Marry said during the course of his podcast with the Lions of Liberty. We see this very, very important. We want to highlight, obviously, to the Irish people and to the Irish authorities the lies this man is peddling. But we see this as an opportunity. The Justice for Aaron Brady campaign sees this as an opportunity once again to open a door into the American aspect of Aaron's investigation, and how Marry, Phillips, Gill and McGovern, members of Garda Adrian, who are heavily involved in coercion, corruption and collusion during the course of the investigation to frame our son Aaron. So we're going to have a listen to just two very short clips, and we'll highlight very clearly the lies Marry is telling, and we will direct the public and hopefully those in America and those at the Lions of Liberty podcast, the presenter and the production team, and hopefully they will see Marry for what he is. So we're going to have a little listen to the first little clip here, and then we will have a look at what Marry is actually saying here.
And the culprits left the scene in a car and left nothing at the scene for us to, start our investigation. But this crime...
If I could jump in there, saying that there was nothing left at the scene for your investigation, what typically would be there that would make the investigation, more easy to start up and have a path?
Yeah, we thought we might get something like a discarded balaclava or a glove or something like that they would have thrown out the window of the car as they made their getaway. They broke several windows of cars. We thought we might get footprints or something, or even DNA on the car, the police car that they specifically targeted.
We have another, I think it's only 50 seconds, less than a minute, of repugnant rhetoric by Pat Marry there once again as he speaks to the host of Lions of Liberty. Couple of things he mentioned there. He just mentioned as the raiders got away in the car, we've highlighted this on numerous occasions, that the actual car that was used in the modern robbery for a getaway was a silver Passat, and the narrative created by the DPP on Garda Adrian and indeed Pat Marry was that it was a blue Passat that was used in the modern robbery, a vehicle that had been stolen 48 hours earlier. Now, we have created a number of videos in relation to all the points that we're going to make over the course of this little video, and those links will be directly below this video. And obviously, we've made numerous videos in respect of the lies told by the DPP and Garda Adrian in respect of the car. Another lie that has been perpetuated by Marry and Garda Adrian, the DPP, the Irish state, and indeed very much so the Irish mainstream media, is that nothing was left behind at the scene of the crime. And we're going to look at some of the extracts from the book, How to Make Money from Your Murdered Friend and Colleague. We'll take some details from that and then what Pat Marry is saying here. And I think if you listen to what Pat Marry says here in the middle of that little short clip, it's almost unexplainable. He was asked by the presenter, what did you expect to find at the scene of the crime, after he had told lies that there was nothing left at the scene of the crime? He said he expected to find gloves or balaclavas that would have been thrown out of the car by the raiders. In reality, please people, what is the man talking about? Is anyone involved in an armed raid going to start taking off gloves and balaclavas and throwing them out of the car at the scene of the crime? The man is absolutely and totally deluded. But what is very strange too, at the end of that little clip, when he said he also expected to find some DNA in the vehicle, which we look at from the book, and also some footprints. And for some reason, he's trying to tell us that neither of these two things existed at the scene of the crime. But we will have a quick look at that as we go through the book, because I want to cross-reference what he's saying in all these podcasts and radio stations and what's actually written with the book that him and Schiller wrote. And again, to highlight this narrative created by not alone the state, the DPP and Pat Marry, etc. Just wanted to listen to a very quick clip from the main Irish broadcaster RTE and their crime programme, Prime Time. And another mainstream journalist actually says this here on national television. It's Owen Reynolds. Let's have a little listen to that.
The raiders who were responsible for the death of Detective Garda Adrian Donohoe were gone within 60 seconds. So the forensic evidence just really isn't there.
That is another part of the reprehensible and disgusting mainstream coverage of the trial and the investigation. And again, this gentleman, Owen Reynolds, mainstream journalist, says that there was nothing left behind. It was all over in 58 seconds. So we'll just have a little look. And as I said, we're going to try and reference the book to show that this narrative is curated and manufactured and indeed runs through the whole part of the case to mainstream media. And we can show quite clearly all these points that are mentioned here are lies, false flags, and false narratives. So we're just going to quick look at a few pages from the book, How to Make Money from Your Murdered Friend and Colleague, authored by Pat Marry and Robin Schiller. So going to bring up here page 34, halfway down the page there. The weapon, the killer rested his shotgun against the shoulder of his dirty tracksuit and pointed the weapon into the car, aiming it along the detective's body and up at his head. The other raider fixed his handgun on the detective Garda Adrian as he was hemmed into a seat, fearing for his life. So again, we will reference this again when we talk about CCTV footage, but we have it here that Detective Joe Ryan told us quite clearly in 2 court cases and in all his statements and all his debriefs. He was looking directly at the raiders. He said the raider with the shotgun who shot and murdered Detective Garda Adrian Donohue was 6'1" or taller. And Aaron Brady's only 5'7". Again, all the videos related to each one of these points, the links are below. I just want to point particularly our friends in America, Lions of Liberty, towards this, and hopefully they will pass this on to their viewers in America. We move on to page 35. Couple of little points here now. This is Mr. Bellew's car, had a hammer, the smashing the glass of the window at the top that shocked Mr. Bellew. The red-handled hammer used to break into the car window was left at the scene. Again, another very mysterious piece of evidence. We have been told there was no evidence left. The raiders actually left a hammer behind, a very, very well used hammer. Had a lot of marks on it, had a lot of scuffs on it, and yet no DNA or no relevant information from that hammer, or how the hammer found its way in on the Pat Bellew seat to this day is still a mystery and was never solved correctly. It's something we have our own views on, but again, like many other issues for another day, when we have full disclosure and we were able to bring this information forward. The next bit is the other robber focused on Miss McShane's Nissan as he smashed the driver's window in, shouting at the terrified volunteer he told her, step out, hand it out, hand it out. He screamed in panic. She screamed in panic as the masked man continued to shout at her, give me the money, give me the money, give me the fucking money. The vital piece of evidence we have here is Pat Marry pontificates in all his podcast interviews and in the book later on how he took great store in identifying the accents, as was identified by Detective Garda Adrian, who was on the scene. Bernard McShane was debriefed by a member of Garda Síochána with a Dublin accent, and she said very clearly when the Garda from Dublin shouted at her, it was the same accent as the man who had robbed her at the credit union car park. And there is absolutely, and there could have been, no links between Aaron Brady and or any person from Dublin who may have been involved in this robbery. Pat Marry has totally omitted that. So when the narrative doesn't fit, he completely eradicates it from the investigation. At the bottom, Mary Hanlon, Nissan Qashqai containing more than 27,000 in cash from the other credit unions. Now, this car wasn't attacked, and all the money was in this car. And for some reason, they didn't attack the car with the majority of the money in it. But this is all covered in the videos below. But the reason I want to raise Mary Hanlon is she too told us that the man who ran past her with the long metal bar, which we now, I think we can assume safely, was the shotgun, that the man was long and athletic. And again, that description does not fit Aaron. And just a couple of other very vital points of evidence that was at the scene of the robbery. There was in Pat Bellew's car, there was a dash cam, and from that dash cam, audio was recorded. And I would urge anyone who hasn't seen this to please watch the video link below in respect of the dash cam audio that was tampered with in court. Now, it was played once, and you could hear voices in it quite distinctly, and it's subjective. If you thought they were West of Ireland accents, Dublin accents, whatever, that's subjective. But what the prosecution did do, on the second playing of the dash cam to the jury, played what they described as a high-pitched, highly modified and version of the audio of the dash cam, and it was nothing more than squealing and dolphin noises. It was a blatant attempt to hide the truth that was on the dash cam footage and the dash cam audio. Pat Marry mentions footprints, and footprints were found. And again, you'll see here where the raiders were hiding behind the wall. Those footprints from where the raiders were waiting to orchestrate their attack. There was cast taken of these footprints, and there was specific footwear identified, which obviously could not be connected to Aaron Brady. He also mentions DNA, and he mentions the DNA in the inside of the Garda car, and there was DNA. There was unidentified male DNA found on the inside door of Garda Síochána's car, and we know that the raider with the handgun reached in and took the keys from the Garda car. Again, all this is detailed in the videos listed below. So the premise put forward by these reprehensible people that there was nothing or no evidence left in that 58 seconds is absolutely ludicrous. It is lies, it is misleading, it is a curated narrative that simply is generated to hide the facts, because the facts show clearly Aaron Brady had nothing to do with the Northern robbery at Lordship Credit Union. Just one more very brief clip from the podcast Marry's in with the Lions of Liberty in relation to CCTV. We'll just have a quick listen to this, and then, of course, we'll be able to give you our view of the facts behind the CCTV footage.
The CCTV on the night that covered the incident was poor. It was a very, very blustery night, raining all night. Weather conditions were terrible. And this occurred on the 25th of January 2013.
A very quick clip there. Pat Marry just mentioned the CCTV footage, and we know why he skirts over it so quickly, because he is completely covering his arse here, and he is covering the arse of the investigation. Very, very simply. Because the CCTV footage, as he says, was poor, it was grainy, but we say very clearly, very, very clearly, and I think we're going to have to bring this to the fore and bring it to the public. The actual CCTV footage shows the two men that attacked the Garda car. And the footage shows the height disparity between the two men. So Joe Ryan's view of the two raiders was that one was 6'1" or 2, the other raider was 5'7". So there was perspective. Mary Hanlon, credit union worker, says the man with the long bar was long and athletic. The CCTV footage shows clearly that the man with the shotgun is head and shoulders above the other raider. Please, please view the links in the videos below to see this all in more detail. And as we have said before, if anything we have said was incorrect, we would have been challenged on it. We have been telling the truth for 4 years now, and no one has challenged one scintilla of the information we are putting forward now. Not one scintilla. So finally, and again, I could talk for hours on this minute of lies, reprehensible and absolutely despicable and repulsive words by Pat Marry. But I just wanted to direct you to the videos below, all the information on those. We're just going to listen to him pontificate about the phone silence. So we'll just have a quick listen to that. We'll report on that, and we'll show you once again the liar Pat Marry really, really is.
We were able to establish on the night they were using walkie-talkies, and they weren't obviously using phones. So the suspects' phones, we could establish, were turned off between 8:30 in the evening and 10:30 during the time of the robbery. And I went back over their phone records for the previous Friday nights, and they were all working and they were talking. There wasn't a problem. So this one night of the murder and the robbery, their phones were off. And I used that as evidence that they were involved in the robbery, because they didn't want to be caught through phones. The fact that they were turned off, it sort of bounced back on them. And because I did investigate a murder of a guy who killed his wife, and the guy was Joe O'Reilly.
The fact that the phones was off is clear evidence they were involved in the robbery, according to this man, who is completely deluded. First and foremost, that is a complete and total lie, because experts from Vodafone came and other tech experts. There is no possible way to know if the phones were out of coverage or if the phones are switched off. And more importantly, and I suppose for new viewers coming into the story, we have done extensive videos, which you can see the links below, in relation to this false narrative about the phone silence. But in our area here, along the border between Northern Ireland and Ireland, there is vast swathes of areas where the coverage is non-existent or very, very poor. So there is no way of knowing if a phone has been switched off or it is just out of coverage. So he's telling a narrative there that is a lie. So let's have a look at the rest of this information. And you can see here some of the new, this is only one of thousands of words and columns that was written about this unusual phone silence. So it wasn't unusual. In fact, the opposite is true. When the phone records were studied and correlated correctly, it was actually more usual for the phones to be inactive in and around that time in the month of January. For the time period from the 1st of January to the 28th of January, I believe the phones were, the phone data was analysed. So we can, if you listen to Marry and listen to the narrative created by the prosecution and the Irish state, this was a highly unusual situation where these phones were silent in this period of time. Please watch the videos below. The links are all there. It was not unusual. It was not unusual. It was more usual for the phones to be silent in and around that period of time. Pat Marry is a liar. This is more contemptible narrative that this man is pushing here. It's lies. The man is totally and completely deluded pushing this story. Again, you can see the vast amount of information there is. Less than 2 minutes of listening to Pat Marry, and you will see below possibly hours of videos. But please look at those videos and the details within that contradicts everything this man has said in this podcast. Once again, I hope those in America are watching this, and either the presenter or the producers of Lions of Liberty will see fit to question us on the questions we are putting forward. And as we have always said, all we want is the whole truth. We don't want anyone putting a hand up per se to say that Aaron Brady's innocent or guilty, but we want to see the whole story and the story being told in a correct and proper way and in a correct narrative. Just one or two more bits from Marry's podcast, and we link it again to the book and the lies, how they're being perpetuated continuously. And once again, I'll say to those in America, we have created up on 500 pieces of work, videos, podcasts, lives. We've done live streams on other podcast platforms, and not once has any of the mainstream media, Pat Marry, or anyone in the Irish state, not once have we been questioned about what we are saying. And we are saying quite categorically, Pat Marry is a liar. And we'll continue to show that. So thank you once again, and we'll see you in the next video very shortly, looking at Pat Marry's podcast with the Lions of Liberty in the USA. Thank you.